As the UN Climate Summit in Egypt nears its end, world leaders have been making major pledges on climate change and action. At Sharm el-Sheikh, Brazil's President-elect Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva promised to crack down on deforestation in the Amazon. Debate still remains over compensation for poorer countries for the damaging effects they suffer from climate change. Delegates at the conference are yet to agree on a final deal. Well, climate activist Luisa Neubauer from Fridays for Future Germany joins us now from the summit. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock is still at the summit. What do you hope she achieves?
Well, what we need at the summit more desperately than perhaps ever before is we need for especially the countries of the global north to demonstrate that any of their promises mean anything. And as we speak about new pledges being made from all sorts of world leaders, what we're seeing at the same time is that before and during the summit, 40 new gas deals were made, and we're still counting. So this summit is about to turn into a fossil fuel gas greenwashing show, with world leaders saying the one thing and at the same time all over the planet expanding fossil fuel infrastructure.
How much of the pledges, how many of the pledges, or what sort of percentage would you say is greenwashing and will actually result in some sort of action being taken?
Well, I'm not saying that all of the pledges made here are categorically empty, but what we're seeing is that leaders, especially those of the global north, are undermining their own promises when saying that they're committing to climate action, to mitigation, to loss and damage on the one side, while fueling the crisis that causes all the devastation at the same time. It's not working out, so we need to look at, what's the sum of things that is happening here, and that is, in the worst case, an enormous backlash, or the opening up, rather, of a new fossil fuel era, with leaders from the global north desperately trying to get around and assemble as much fossil fuel as they can possibly get, knowingly that there will be an incredible amount of overproduction happening, knowing that they're putting lives and livelihoods everywhere at risk.
What's also not working, and where promises have been made but not kept, is financing poorer countries to cope with the challenges. Do you have recommendations or suggestions on how that could go forward?
Well, I don't think people have an idea of the amount of mistrust that is around here at COP. People from the most affected area, from the most vulnerable countries, they have no reason anymore to believe any of the finance pledges that are being made that we've heard for so many years, with then all of the leaders, one after the other, backing off of actually delivering to that. And people are tired. They can't wait anymore. They have lost everything already to a large extent. And anyone coming here wanting to excite everyone for yet another pledge, is facing the very dire truth, the very dire reality of so many people around the world who have lost everything because of the emissions of the global north, because of the emissions that they have never caused in the first place. That is incredibly unjust. And if this conference is supposed to mean anything, this is the moment where the global north really has to pay up.
Louisa, is it counterproductive when people from your climate movement or other climate activists from around the world start gluing themselves to highways and streets and attacking works of art? Does that work against what you're trying to achieve there in Egypt?
Sorry, I didn't get the last part. What is counterproductive?
When climate activists start gluing themselves to highways and streets and attacking works of art, does that make your job a lot harder there where you are in Egypt in trying to bring about change?
Why should that be counterproductive?
Because we see a public backlash. We see public opinion moving against climate activists when, at the moment, we have such a huge movement and huge public awareness of what needs to be done for the climate.
Well, I don't think that every movement and every activist's goal needs to be to, change a public opinion or to create public majorities for climate action. I think some of us needs to just make sure all the time that this crisis is real, that it's there, and action needs to happen now. You know, it's a great teamwork that we're doing all over the planet, with some of us creating large movements, bringing millions of people on the street and creating, you know, a public understanding of what's going on in the larger sense. And others are there to show how drastic and how radical this crisis really is. And this comes together as a large, you know, mosaic there. And to be fair, I think, you know, leaders now claiming, or politicians now claiming that, you know, the public opinion would be harmed by someone gluing there on the streets. I would argue that the public opinion is being harmed by leaders, you know, telling all the fairy tales about the crisis that can apparently wait, about the climate not being the first priority, and about, you know, climate activists needing to understand that, you know, there might be more important things to care about when the one thing we really cannot live without is a stable climate.
Luisa Neubauer from Fridays for Future Germany, thank you very much for being on DW News. Appreciate it.